if you're going to continue using these devices is you may want to have a periodic check to make sure it doesn't switch itself back on with the next
There
update.
was an update.
Yeah.
Oops, our bad.
We know you turned that off by mistake. So we shall switch it back on for you.
Yes. You were so kind.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims.
This is Smythe Duval
Relax.
from Marietta,
HIPAA
Georgia,
help
and
is
you
on the
are
way.
listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name's David Sims with HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Carden. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, David.
So, as we're recording, yesterday was Thanksgiving. I don't know about you, but I'm still bloated. It's like I ate way too much.
Oh no, I tried to just chill. Yeah, because my huge family was playing it safe.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody kind of in their own little areas, but of course we're heating up the phone lines and all day. But overall, comparatively, it was kind of chill compared to, but that doesn't mean it's all relative. When you got a family like mine, chill just means it's not chaotic.
Yeah. So I did notice that the Zoom app got rid of their 40-minute limit on the free version, I guess, so people could do Zoom Thanksgiving.
Right. It's a Zoom's giving.
So that was interesting, but that plays very, very slightly into our topic today. Not a whole lot, but we're going to be talking about a technology thing.
Yeah,
and
but everybody thinks it's awesome.
I don't know about everybody, but we'll see. But the title of today's episode is going to be Get Off the Sidewalk. And we're going to be talking about this new service. Should I do air quotes?
Feature.
Yeah, this new feature coming from Amazon. And I guess it's going to be called the Amazon Sidewalk. I don't know. But,
Amazon Sidewalk. Yep. So,
years ago, we developed the information superhighway, and now it has sidewalks along the highway. So it is a infrastructure project, I guess. But anyway,
Well,
we're going to talk more about that. But before we do, we want to also talk about the HIPAA Boot Camp. It's coming up.
yeah. So just so that we can explain a little bit, because the virtual one that we did in August, they gave us some great feedback. We're going to do a few things different so that we can add in more downtime during the events. So some of the stuff that we go through, all of the basics to make sure that everybody's on the same page with information. What we're going to do is kind of give you the ability, you just kind of do a learning check, making sure you do know all that stuff, and then you're good to go. And if you don't, we give you some videos to learn all of those things. And we'll do a quick little recap. That'll cut down some of the hardest part of the whole thing is understanding all the pieces and parts. And a lot of people don't understand all of them. So it is important to make sure that we do that. But as one of our attendees from last year that's near and dear to your heart, David, as she said, I've never been to a conference where I had to do homework.
It's not a conference.
It's not. It's a class. And so there's prerequisites. But the good thing is, we ship everything to you. You get your camera, you get everything set up, and you hang out with us for 3 days. And we're taking all of the things that those people, suffered through and making adjustments accordingly to make it even better. And it wasn't like they hated it. In fact, we're still getting feedback from them and trying to talk with them on a regular basis, just as we try new things.
Yeah.
So we will cover all of those topics that we covered before. And, we end with the scare tactics of taking you through exactly what it's like when you're under investigation by OCR. So that is February 20. 23rd?
Yeah, 23, 24, 25.
There we go. 23 to 25.
Yep.
So
Well, the good thing is with having more breaks, we don't have to include the catheter in this bag this year. But we might want to include just a paper bag for, hyperventilating when, people understand some of the
stuff. We've had people do that sometimes, and we're usually there to support them through it.
Yeah.
But yes.
But I always love the I know a guy, hypothetically.
Yeah. I heard this. It wasn't me.
Yeah. Hypothetically, what needs to happen here?
If such and such happened, what does that mean? Those kind of things. Yes.
Yep. So anyway, it's going to be a good time. If you want to know about that more, you can go to thehippobootcamp.com and get all the information there. All that's updated, right? Everything's good.
Oh, you're in charge of that. I make it where they can register.
Okay. Well, as long as you got the registration part done, the rest is already done.
Yeah. I don't know if I can link to the registration. But yeah, you can go to, if you just want to register and sign up, go to helpmewithhippo.com/HBC.
Right. And if you
want. So there you go.
Yeah. And if you want all the details, you can go to thehippobootcamp.com. See all the details and then click on one of the many buttons that are there to take you to the registration page either way.
There's a button for everything.
Yep. We love buttons. I guess I need to mention that we are on YouTube now. And for those who have commented so far, let's see. No, I wasn't wearing a black dress. Sorry that I disappointed you.
But it got you to go look.
But yeah, you got to go look. And to the person who says I need to wear more makeup, sorry, there's not a whole lot we can do with this.
We still got to work on lighting. I wanted more daylight, so I moved my desk around and I have some daylight, David.
You got it.
Natural light.
Looks like you're in an interrogation room.
I know, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
all right.
Nothing ever is good enough, right?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
It can be good enough.
Here we go.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back to our HIPAA
Say what?
segment. Here we go. The number of medical practices that think they're HIPAA compliant is pretty staggering. Effective privacy and security are an ongoing process, not a checklist. And that's why at Cardin, they don't just assess your situation and leave you with a report, but they work with you all along the way. Call Cardin today at 678-292-5001 or visit them on the web at cardinhq.com. Aren't your patients worth it?
Are you frustrated with your current IT provider? Are you sure you're getting the security and protection you need? Are you putting your patients and your practice at risk? If you're in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, give Security First IT a call to learn more about how they can protect your patients, your practice, and your bottom line. Find them online at securityfirstit.com or call 980-288-5100.
All right, we are back. It's time for our HIPAA
Say what?
segment of the week. So this one's going to be interesting. There's some changes that's happening with some things around cybersecurity donations. And this is one of the, Don and I talked about this before we recorded, and it's kind of one of those scratch your head kind of, is this going to be a benefit? Is it not? Is it going to be mishandled? I don't know, man.
Probably.
So I'm tossing this one over to you because to me, this sounds like a great idea going bad, much like Amazon Sidewalk probably will be.
Yeah, which we'll get into. Another great idea gone bad shortly after this. Well, here's the thing is that we don't know what HIPAA says about this yet. At least I haven't found it because this is pretty new news. New news just came out this week, and it's something that's been talked about for a while, but it is from HHS and CMS, not from HHS and OCR. Two different things. And what it's all about, of course, for your reading pleasure. Let's see, there's a 627-page final rule. No. and over 1,000-page final rule from HHS Inspector General. But the concept is, in a lot of communities, the health systems and the hospitals, they have way more money and technology and capability than the independent physicians' practices. They're a smaller business. We know how that happens, right? So the law, there's a thing that's called the Stark Law and the anti-kickback regulations, those kind of things, would say that the hospital can't give those physicians' offices, just anything, because it would be like they're giving a kickback for sending people to the hospital. So there's all those things that are involved in that. They had carved out that you could share an EHR just so that we could do interoperability things. And now they have decided that you can donate to and it's a donation, but there's no, what do they call it? Quid pro quo.
Yeah.
You can donate from the hospital or health system to the independent physician practices, cybersecurity technology. The thing is that, when they first talked about it, it was like a firewall, right? Everybody could standardize on a firewall and have all of the monitors on it. And you could have the high end stuff where, it's got IPS and all of those things. But now it is very broad because it includes developing, installing, and updating cybersecurity software and providing cybersecurity training services and the training on how to use cybersecurity technology, how to prevent, detect, and respond to cyber threats, how to troubleshoot problems with the cybersecurity technology via, quote, help desk kind of thing, even more than that. But, the malware, software, endpoint protection, basically out the wazoo. So they could go promise everything, and it's a donation.
Yeah, but these are all the things that at least my clients tell me they don't want to do. They don't want to learn how to do these things to respond and troubleshoot. And, they hire us to come in and take all these things away from them to worry so they can run their business or they can see patients or whatever. So, I don't know.
Yeah, there's so many layers of problems with this. First of all, how does this fall under HIPAA? Is now the health system, legally, if we look at the way it works, they would be a business associate. Mm-hmm. Does that mean the health system is a business associate, but only, they're going to have to carve out only the technology sections? And the hospital, I can tell you this from experience. There are very few hospital-owned clinics that are out there where the entire clinic system is actually secured. They'll tell you, we ask for things, but they always tell us they don't have time to come to us because they're dealing with the hospital.
Yeah.
So they're already stretched thin. I don't know any of those departments that would be like, yeah, let's add more stuff.
Yeah.
For free.
Well, another thing we talked about several times on the podcast is where you have these IT specialists that are familiar with the big hospital systems and then taking that knowledge and implementation mindset and put it into a small practice. And now you're like, that doesn't fit because, a hospital is going to have a much bigger network with much bigger and more expensive things. And so if that's all I know as a technology person, and I walk in and say, oh, well, you need this $50,000 piece of equipment because that's what I know, or whatever. We see things all the time where there's a practice with 5 computers and a server or 2 servers or whatever. And you're like, why? It's too small for that environment. But there again, that's something you're going to have with this, I think.
And there's just so many layers. There's just so many layers that's going to have to be figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Is because I know those hospitals aren't going to have the resources internally to do this and to manage this at any kind of scalable level, where it would really matter. If you're talking about doing it with 2 offices, it's different. But if you're only doing it with 2 offices they probably already are tied so tightly together. You know what I mean? But this is going to create mass confusion. It will likely create less secure physicians' practices because they will make assumptions that it's being taken care of, and no one will be clear on where that line is drawn, because everything here is about assisting with cybersecurity parts.
Yeah. I mean, I already battled this conversation now where
Right.
somebody will say, well, we use the hospital's EHR, so we don't have to do HIPAA because all of our PHIs at the hospital, we don't have anything. I already battled that.
And the hospital is like, what do you mean? Wait, what?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, and it's almost impossible to convince these people otherwise. Even when you draw the map for them, they're like, yeah, well, I was told we didn't have to worry about this. Okay.
All right.
I'm telling you, you do. And,
Well,
are you going to
I'm going
believe?
to go with the thing that I like to hear, not the thing that I need to hear.
Right. Yeah. Are you going to believe the thing that is against what you want to do? And not likely.
Right. So, I mean, we do have that issue is I'm only going to believe the thing that says what it is that I want to hear.
Yeah. If it fits my point of view, then it's correct.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're lying. Get out.
And we can spiral in all kind of ways with that.
Oh, God.
That
Yes,
happens
we can.
in every aspect of life, whether it's politics, religion, family, everything.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it fits your narrative, you're good.
Yeah. And then there are those of us that go, you should really think about that more than one way. Like this. It sounds great, but there are so many variables and so many pieces that we have to worry about, and how it could be implemented, how it could be managed, where is the line drawn, what happens if a problem actually occurs, who's got the liability, who's got the, oh, well, we're going to provide all these services. Okay, well, that connection went down. Everything's down at the hospital. When do the physicians' practices come into that line? Well, I don't know. The hospital, then the hospital's clinics that they own, and their surgery centers, and then way down here, physicians' offices who are actually treating the patients during a disaster, just as much as the hospital. So, I mean, there are so many variables that have to be figured out, and we both know that'll be skipped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if people are saying, well, we're just going to get it all donated, somebody needs to be evaluating what risk is being managed by what entity. And we need a little bit of guidance, because this is totally different than I'll let you log in and use the EHR and I'm in complete control, versus I'm going to take care of your network, whether or not you're using my EHR. I'm going to have complete control of your network. And I mean, I have a lot of questions, about that. If you were going to take over my network, I don't know about you, David.
Yeah. Lots of questions.
Yeah. But they won't know to ask those questions unless people are telling them to.
Yeah. Most people proceed with everything's working, so everything must be fine.
It's more of that whole thing. As I was told, I didn't have to worry about any of that. And you should always worry. I don't care who's doing it. If you own a company, you should be worried about how it is being handled. Period.
Yeah. The healthy kind of worry.
Yeah. Yeah. Not the freak out, control freak kind of worry. It's
concern.
I want regular follow up. I want to see my monthly reports. Oh, and how is the hospital going to be providing that kind of information so that I can prove that? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a long list of concerns I have in how this will actually work if someone tries to implement it. So there's going to need to be very, very specific things in writing. Whether or not OCR comes out and says they're a BA, I'm still going to need to know exactly where the line's drawn liability wise and what it is that I need to worry about versus this donation.
Mhm.
And you know what we always say, what would you think if you had a ton of equipment and you brought in new stuff? What would you donate? I would not donate the new stuff. I would donate my used stuff
Mhm.
that I'm upgrading because this doesn't meet my needs anymore, but it should be fine for you. I mean, there's so many variables. So if you're involved in these discussions, please ask a lot of questions.
Again, we already battled this with these independent offices to stop using equipment that's so old and out of date. You know, it doesn't have the security licensing on it anymore, or they get it and then can't afford the security license for it. You know,
Yeah.
it only has another year left before it hits end of life. And so now you're looking at, sure, they gave you this equipment. Now you got to pay all this money to implement the equipment, only to turn around a year from now and do it again.
Is the maintenance included?
Yeah, no. Yeah. And then if you've got some, you know, Palo Alto firewall and you call, most MSPs probably are going to be like, yeah, I'll try to support it. Never seen one before, but, I'll try to do it, because most MSPs have their flavor of firewall and they try to stick with that flavor so they can, go deep into the knowledge of that particular product line and not try to support everything.
I understand the value in what they're doing. And I believe it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
The execution is problematic.
I agree.
So, I don't know. I think they should just hire you and then donate your services.
Donate my service.
Donate the services they pay you to provide.
Yeah, as long as I'm not donating them, we're fine.
As long as you're not donating them.
Well, so either way it's coming, just as long as you know it's coming and you know to ask questions. That's a good start.
Yep.
So speaking of something else that's coming and you need to be asking questions about, let's talk about the main topic of today's show, which is getting off the sidewalk before you get run over.
Get off the sidewalk.
So I didn't know anything about this. I've been kind of off of all social media and news for the past week or two, just way bogged down into other business related matters. And so I get this morning and I'm like, okay, what is this Amazon sidewalk? And so I Google it and I'm like, oh, heck no.
No.
I didn't even make it past the first paragraph before I was like, no.
No to the no. I ain't. No. The minute I saw it. And, the good news is I kind of held it because I knew you were a little busy. I've been trying to test it out, where all do I need to do things and how it needs to be done. And wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let's talk about what it is first.
What it is.
Yeah. So Amazon has decided that it's going to have a new feature for you that will be so beneficial because it is going to take some of your Amazon devices and it is going to allow those devices, which I guess would be the Alexa devices. So the Echo, some of the Ring devices, it's going to create a shared network that's meant to help these devices work better, which I love the ambiguity of that.
Yeah.
So what it's supposed to do is create all these little networks with nearby devices of your neighbors. Mm-hmm. Yes, your neighbors. And share your bandwidth and their bandwidth, because sharing is caring. And, if your internet goes down, you can still get to your stuff because you're borrowing your neighbor's internet service, which funny thing is, if I was to borrow my neighbor's internet service for, let's say, video gaming or because I don't want to pay for internet, that's a crime. But for some reason, this is okay.
Yeah. Apparently. Again, good idea that where I want to put another security camera, it's too far from my Wi-Fi for it to work. But don't worry, my neighbor's Wi-Fi also uses Amazon, so I'm going to just get some bandwidth from them.
Yeah, and the weird thing is
pilfering it.
Yeah, and if my neighbor, because here's the thing that you and I do, like we have the Wi-Fi. I'm sure our neighbors can pick up the Wi-Fi, but we have it secured, so they can't get on our Wi-Fi even if they wanted to. But this is going to create a separate network outside of that your neighbor's devices can connect to. Like, seriously?
Yeah. But don't worry.
Oh, I don't.
Don't worry, they said. They said, don't worry. They will limit the bandwidth to 500 megabits a month that they will pull off of your network.
Yeah, which, I mean, ultimately, that's not a ton. If you're on broadband, it's not a ton. I mean, there are people, at least out in my neck of the woods, there are people that still don't have broadband.
Tons of people, don't. So, but out where they don't have broadband, there's probably not neighbors that you can connect to close enough either.
This is true. Yeah. I don't know, honestly, that my neighbors could connect. I'm pretty sure they can't.
There's a distance.
Yeah. So I'm not super worried about it. Of course, I guess the other thing you could do is probably not have Wi-Fi.
Not have any of these devices?
Yeah.
That'd be the other thing.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I think next thing people are going to start doing is looking for short-range Wi-Fi devices. We've always been trying to get long-range devices so we can get further and further coverage. Now I think people are going to go, I want something that's only going to be within the walls of my home. I don't want it to go any further. But let's talk about...
I have mine set up so our house is really long. So the equipment all goes the length of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the neighbor is literally right there on the other side of the fence. So, but everything goes that way. All the Wi-Fi and everything. So it's still enough that if I had one of these devices and I allowed them to use it, it would do it.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like, peace out.
All right. Gotcha. So let's talk about, there's a few things we're going to go into. We are going to get into the work from home issue here because I think that's a big conversation.
Yeah.
But let's talk about why people should get off of it. So what are the complications and implications of this product? And you need to understand that by default, this is turned on. Which, again, it's like, wait a minute. It's not something I signed up for. I have to sign up to be off of it, not sign up to be on it.
Yeah.
Which to me is a big concern because that means that Amazon sees no problem with adding a service to your device and then turning it on.
A service to your device that extends outside your network.
Yeah.
This is why we talk about IoT.
But they notified you.
Quietly.
Anyway, so let's talk about why should people get off of it?
I think we've already talked about that. It's connecting your network to other networks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's we always talk about our concern about these Alexa devices and what they're recording and what they're picking up and what they're doing with it. Okay, so now not only am I going to do that, but I'm going to allow it to connect to this broader network of all my neighbors.
Yeah.
And you tell me that ain't going to be abused at some point soon.
Okay, so we have two potential areas of abuse. We have the Amazon abuse.
Yes.
But we also have the abuse of people that find the holes in this and then exploit it, which will happen.
Yeah.
Because even if Amazon does everything perfectly above board and legit and the NSA doesn't get involved, even if that happens, somebody will be able to find a vulnerability and exploit it.
Yeah. We always say it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
If the technology exists, it can be attacked. It will be vulnerable at some point in some way, and people will find it.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine this. I have my network nice and locked down. Doing good. In fact, my company gives me equipment. I'm good. But I have a whole system of Amazon Alexas and Echoes and Echo Dots or whatever, so that it all plays music throughout my house, because that's what most people do with these things anyway. And it's all nice and cool until my neighbor is now connected to my network, and they're using the same Linksys router they got in 2010 to connect to the network. It's had no firmware updates. It's completely not secure. And they've got a house full of Alexas. And, now I'm connected to them. And their network is infiltrated.
Mm-hmm.
And the traffic from Alexa now, they got access to. So I'll just leave it at that. There you go. That's why.
Yeah.
You want to add something to it?
Well, I mean, we're talking about home networks mostly, but we've had a whole entire episode about connecting these in the office.
Yeah.
And the implementation. Yeah. And what can happen there. So again, as we talked about in the previous segment, this is something you need to, number one, know about. Number two, ask questions. Because you know what? Johnny might decide he wants to listen to some music during the holidays and bring his little Alexa Dot and plug it in.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. It's terrifying.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, a few years ago when the Dot first came out, I bought, a dozen or so for certain clients, and I sent it to them, and I was like, please do not take this and put it in your office. So I had like a warning that came with it, like, use this at home only, don't use it in the office.
And now you got to go back and go unplug them.
Don't use them at all. But yeah, it's a big concern. So assuming that people are listening and they're concerned as we are, how do we get off of the sidewalk?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. Good news, at least as far as I can tell, it's rolled out in the Alexa app, and you go into more settings, and we'll have links to these things on the show notes. But you go into the settings, into your account, and you'll see Sidewalk right there.
Mm-hmm.
You just tap it and turn it off. And if it's already off, maybe, because I think they're going to reach the point where they have to ship it off. But if they do that, then it's never going to be, it'll never be useful.
One article I read said that if you're setting up a new device, you have the option to turn it on or off. But if it's an existing device, then so far, by default, it turns itself on.
When the update is loaded.
That's what I've read. The other thing to consider too, though, is if you're going to continue using these devices, is you may want to have a periodic check to make sure it doesn't switch itself back on with the next update.
There was an update.
Yeah.
Oops,
we know,
our bad.
We know you turned that off by mistake. So we shall switch it back on for you.
Yes. We're so kind.
It's like my watch updated yesterday and decided that I needed a different watch face.
Mine did that.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit, and then it went back. I don't know what happened.
Just completely changed it. So yeah, these companies often will push out these updates, and the updates set these default parameters for things, and oftentimes things can get turned on or off.
Yes.
Without you knowing about it. If you're lucky, you notice it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that counts us too. I mean, like David said, he hadn't even been paying attention to this. So if we're not constantly on top of this stuff, when would we stumble on it? That's the most important thing, is you can do it through the Alexa app. And, just go into the app, turn off Sidewalk. They're also rolling it out under the Ring devices, but they're rolling it out a little differently. Under the Ring devices, because it says you need a sidewalk bridge device. And then your whole Ring network can now be part of sidewalk. And that requires you have a floodlight cam, spotlight cam, or a spotlight, one of the spotlight cams or the floodlight cam. Apparently those are required to be sidewalked. If you don't have those and all you have is the Ring doorbell, apparently, at least right now it appears that the doorbell itself doesn't have the capability. It doesn't have the power. And I would imagine that it doesn't, like the ability on the network with the stronger devices that are actually wired in.
Yeah. Yeah, because, we need to make sure that our doorbells have better range so that you can stand further away from it and ring it.
Socially distanced doorbell.
I know. It's like, why should you require people to walk all the way up to your door to ring the doorbell? That's ridiculous. You should be able to ring the doorbell from the street.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, excuse me, from the sidewalk even.
Well, all of a sudden everybody's doorbell starts ringing in the neighborhood, or all their Alexas start screaming the same message.
Yeah.
You're going to hear something like that's going to happen. Like everybody in the neighborhood that it has an Alexa, all of a sudden they're going to hear somebody's hacked it.
I'm watching you.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It'll be crazy stuff. Scare everybody. And it'll be some, highly likely it'll be some nerdy kid, in the neighborhood. But because people's are so not secure on their home networks, it could be, anybody in the Ukraine or in Vietnam. I mean, it doesn't matter. It could be somebody down the street.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely something that you have to evaluate. And what do we need to do? A risk analysis.
That's right.
So let's talk about the work from home part of this.
Yeah, I would do the risk analysis part, even if it was going in my house. I mean,
Right.
even if it's nothing but let's sit down and think this through.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's what a risk analysis is.
A lot of people I know, their IoT network, because maybe they do go through the part of setting up their own network for the IoT devices. They sometimes don't secure those networks because it is kind of a pain trying to enter in a password into these IoT devices.
Yeah, they're not easy. I mean, I have, you and I are different from everybody else, but I mean, I got 4 networks, depending on what I want it to have. That's all you get. It's all segmented.
Mm-hmm.
And most people aren't going to have that kind of segmentation to block things. It's just a big flat network. And I can get to the Alexa, the laptops, the phones, the refrigerator. I can get to all of it if you can get into the network.
Yeah.
So
My wife always gets mad at me because every time anybody needs to print, they can't print through the network that we're on. They have to connect to a different network to print.
Yeah. Well, printers are notoriously not secure.
I know. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, at least I made it easy because you just unplug the wired because it's on a separate wireless network and it's not connected to the wired network. But anyway.
Anyway, there you go. Security's not convenient.
No, it is not. And neither is printing around my house.
No. Well, I'm a big fan of never printing anything unless absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely necessary.
All right. So we know why to get off of it. We know how to get off of it. Now let's dive into the concerning piece of what about the work from home phenomenon?
Yeah. So this thing is turned on by default. And Amazon claims, let's look at the risk analysis. Amazon claims, this is they have a FAQ and a white paper that Amazon wrote about their security. And, I haven't had time to go through all of it, but, it's encrypted in multiple layers of encryption. And, you're not even going to be able to know that other devices are connected to you, or, there's all this, only minimum necessary data. I mean, all this stuff. Yeah. Data minimization, as they call it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing about this that's concerning is, even though your device may be connecting to other devices, you won't know.
Exactly. You won't know what devices. You won't know if, where,
Yeah.
But they have the gateway ID is one of the things that they keep to know where to relay the packets.
Yeah. I mean,
that's my gateway.
From a privacy perspective, I mean, there's just a lot of head scratching on this one.
Oh yeah. And they have pretty pictures about how encrypted it is. And
well, I mean, as long as it's encrypted, it's good, right?
Yeah. But the thing is that they're worried about what's in the traffic, right? Not the traffic existing. And the existing traffic is what gives me the opening. Even if I don't care what's in that traffic, I can then use that traffic into networks. That is the concern.
Yep.
So even if I break into one house in the neighborhood, then I could go through the Alexa device and be able to spawn.
That's a new word for you.
I know. Right? It just came to me. But potentially be able to get, and we don't know.
Nope.
We don't know. And if I don't know that it's reasonable and appropriate to assume this is secure, is not something I feel comfortable saying. I do not believe it's reasonable nor appropriate to assume that this stuff is secure.
No, I would say that would be a reasonable unreasonableness to have.
Yeah, I concur. But, if you want to get all this information, again, we'll have it on there. But there's all these pretty pictures, and it shows, and it's talking the sidewalk and the cloud. And, okay, yeah, I doubt that they would have been able to roll this out without putting a substantial amount of thought into securing it. But what did we just talk about? Oh, Amazon's having a tish of a problem on the East Coast this week.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they've published yet, or I haven't seen what the problem was.
Yeah, I think
I do know that between New York and DC was where the worst parts were.
Yeah, as of yesterday, I was still getting notifications from some of my third-party vendors that they were experiencing outages because, they're on the Amazon Web Services.
Yep. The more and more people use AWS, and I mean a ton of people use AWS, that is a targeted backbone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So for everybody who's like, we're in the cloud. Yeah, you are. Yeah. Just understand what that means for you.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of pros and cons to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not going to even try to secure a server properly, which is not easy to do anymore, then you need to be in the cloud. Because at least then you got a fighting chance.
Yeah. In some cases.
If you secure your cloud.
In some cases. Yeah. Yeah. We've seen those who had a breach and are like, yeah, but I'm using Microsoft 365 and it's got security. And I'm like, yeah, but did you configure it? And they're like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. That's like one of the things that we do in our assessments is we check those settings. Like in your EHR, it's has security settings. Let's review what the options are. Now, which ones are you using? Well, why do I want to do that?
Yeah.
It's secure. It has those options.
But it's HIPAA compliant. That's why I wish they would say can be used in a HIPAA compliant manner instead of HIPAA compliant. Yeah. Because at least it can be used in a HIPAA compliant manner suggests that there's something you need to do.
This does require effort on your end.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right. So that is our show for today, folks. We hope you learn to get off the sidewalk before you get run over.
Yes. I would definitely put out a notice to your work from home people that if they have these devices, they need to turn it off until there's further evaluation, and give them the instructions to turn it off. Get off the sidewalk.
Yep, I agree. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this in months to come.
Both of these things that we discussed today sounds great.
Yeah.
Big gaping holes.
Yeah.
But it sounds great.
Yeah. If we can find that much concern about it, just reading a few articles, then, once it rolls out and it's there, it should be even more interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think, Sidewalk's already rolled out. I think under the Alexa devices, because it's out there and it's on.
Wow. Scary.
I know.
Scary thought. All right.
So further out in the middle of nowhere you live, the better off you are, except for the fact that you're still connected to the Ukraine. So you got an internet connection.
Maybe we should just all sing It's a Small World after all.
I know, right?
Oh, boy. Anyway, that's our show for today. Remember to follow us and share us out on your favorite social media site. You can rate us on our podcasting app. We love the ratings and reviews. So keep those coming in.
We have a new one that is spectacular.
Oh, well, shoot. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. I cannot believe I forgot to put it into the show notes because it brings up what's near and dear to our heart, collard greens.
Shoot. Heck yeah.
Yeah. It's collard greens and HIPAA was
Is that the title?
Yeah, HIPAA and collard greens served in a buffet. It's spectacular. Highly recommend listening to the weekly podcast, even if you're not part of a HIPAA-covered entity. Southern humor helps digest a very dry subject matter. And thanks for Treat 007 for doing that last week. But HIPAA and collard greens served in buffet.
That's pretty good. That's definitely
I loved it.
It's definitely a listener that fits right in.
That's right. They get us. I love it when people get us.
Oh, man. So
it's important.
That's awesome.
All right. So now you can Google HIPAA and collard greens. That's the new name. That's the new name.
Hey, maybe we should change the name of our podcast to HIPAA and collard greens. That would be interesting.
Yep. That would be like, all right. Yeah, we gotta come up with a new way to handle everything just because HIPAA and collard greens.
No kidding. Wow.
All right. So sorry, I should have done that at the beginning, but hey, it's in there and I enjoyed it.
Yep. So if you stay to the end, you got a treat.
From Treat 007.
Right, exactly. I wonder if that's anything to do with 007. All right, folks. Thanks again. And remember for Donna and myself that HIPAA, it's not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.